All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in the man that of the next hour, I guess, because after we did an hour with Cousin Sonny there, let's bring him in. He is Scott Gulbransen. What's up, Scott?
Oh man, I'm trying to find some power up here in Ohio. We're getting hammered by storms again, so that's why I haven't done my hair. I was gonna get hair. I got to be ready. Got to be ready for Murf and the Raider Fan Radio audience. But hey, you get me on natural, and I'm waiting for our electricity and air conditioning, by the way, to come back
Oh my
on.
gosh.
Yeah, and then my phone was out, and then I'm texting. I'm trying to get. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got it. So I go down to my truck, plug in my phone, try to get some battery so I could text you and say, dude, I got no power. But now I got the phone charged enough, and I got it hooked to a portable charger, so we're good.
Okay. Well,
It's a mess.
you got the pompadour hair going. Looks good, man. I like
Oh,
it.
dude, look at that. I
It's
get
like,
people come on the show and talk about how my hairline's going back, which but hey, there's still mop going on there.
hey, man, you, Conan O'Brien, and Elvis. You got a lot in common. All right.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, hey, what do you want to talk about the Raiders? You want to talk about the greatest guitar players of all time?
Oh man, I could go either way. I mean, we could start with the Raiders because I just heard you talk to Cousin Sonny talking about how it feels so weird for like things to be going well. And you brought up the point, right? Which is what I've been telling our viewers and listeners is don't look at the record this year. Yes, you want to win games. I get it. But man, everything that's going away. I had Mark Anderson from AP on my show on Thursday before the game, and he had the same sense. It's like, you know what? There's accountability in this organization in a way we haven't seen in a long time. And not only that, but I love Clint Kubiak. He is deadpan. He's about business. I don't want jokes. Now, they may come later when things start to roll with this franchise, which I think they will in the next couple of years. Then you might see a little bit of the fun guy, Clint Kubiak. But you know what? You had enough fun. You had enough of yelling Raiders with Pierce and that.
No.
Now you get football because that's what it's all about. So I'm really excited about. I'm excited about Mendoza, which in my household, we got the picture because we're Catholic. We got the Pope, and now I think we're going to put Mendoza up there because my wife is Cuban, of course. So getting the Cuban out there. So it's exciting, man. I got to tell you, I think that this Raider organization, and there's lots of question marks, yes, but it's just fun, and seeing them out there the other night, minus the penalties, by the way, was good. It was good to see those guys get out there. It's good to see people like Jack Besh come along because we haven't heard. I was expecting the worst. He came out, he balled out. So it's an exciting time, and I think it's going to be a fun season.
Absolutely. So speaking of Mendoza, I got just a quick question. I was asking Sonny about this too. Like with the way that he's, I'll call it coached, or at least groomed in a way, for lack of a better term, in order like how to conduct a press conference. He's very standard at times in his answer, and which is fine, because at the end of the day, all it comes down to is winning. We just want to see him win games and be good on the field. So it doesn't, to me, like the communication, style or whatever your preferences really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But do you think it's fair that, like, when he said that that he let his team down based on his performance in his first ever preseason game? I mean, do you agree, or how do you feel about the criticism that he's getting lobbied for taking ownership of that? I think it's a little like, listen, that's just what he's gonna do. Like and so, now if he doesn't win it ultimately, then okay, fine. Then it can start to feel a little empty and ring hollow. But here out of the gate, like, just leave that kid alone, man. That's my opinion, but what's yours?
Yeah, and I think, look, two things. One is Fernando Mendoza. He's a smart guy. Remember, I keep bringing this up because I had to re-listen to it like 4 times. In the press conference last week, he was talking about his neural pathways, right? This is a kid who is highly intelligent. Now, does that translate into winning a Super Bowl? We'll see. But not since, I would say, Andrew Luck, and I'm not comparing their talents, right? I'm comparing the cerebral makeup of these guys. Not since Andrew Luck have we had a guy who's that cerebral. I really believe that. And so when he comes out there and he says, look, I got to do this, I got to do that, it's not like, do you remember towards the end of Derek Carr's stay, people got sick of Carr saying, it's on me, it's on me. Because to your point, it started to ring hollow. I'm sure Derek meant it, but at the same time, you just want to hear your quarterback talk. I think that, look, He knows he's a rookie. He knows because he said it numerous times. He has said, look, I got a long way to go. I'm nowhere near where I need to go. That's what I think you want to hear. I mean, you want cocky bravado, go check out Shedeur Sanders. I mean, again, that's just who these guys are. And so with Fernando Mendoza and the press conferences and that kind of stuff, yeah, he's going to be the aw shucks guy. If the aw shucks turns you off, like you, Murph, I don't really care. Go out and ball out, win, develop as a good franchise quarterback, a great franchise quarterback, preferably. That's what you should care about. Don't if he's got a different style than you like or you don't, who cares? If he goes out and he plays good football and he helps this team win and accomplishes everything everybody thinks he can, that's what should matter.
Absolutely. You know, again, I was just said a little bit ago when I was talking with Sonny about how, you know, like Kenny Stabler's my all-time favorite football player. Like, I mean, the end. Like that's the kind of player that I was initially attracted to. That gritty, that, you know, that renegade life. You know what I mean? Like kind of, you know, not playing by the rules, like all that, like
sure.
You know, in Madden's 3 rules. But outside of that, like that's the kind of player that I gravitate toward. And I think a lot of Raider Nation does too. But at the same time, again, it doesn't matter. Like just win football games, man. Just go out there and throw way more touchdowns than you do interceptions, score in the red zone, like just like lead us to some victories, like keep us in games, no dumb penalties, no turnovers. Don't, you know what I mean? Like just as long as those things, who gives, pardon my French here, Scott, who gives a shit what he sounds like behind the microphone? It doesn't matter.
Right.
At the end of the day, that goes for all players. Because I know that Max has caught some criticisms for some of the things he said about, like, you know, I'm just trying to be the great. He frames things about him and his place in the league, and not about, like, you know, the team and winning Super Bowls. It's all about I'm going to be the greatest and I'm trying to do this. And then he goes and hits Cousins a couple of times, and people are like, oh, Max is all about himself. Listen. Again, don't hit the quarterback, but outside, you know, not when he's wearing a red jersey, but outside of that, like, I don't care what he says on a podcast. Just go out and get 15 sacks and be defensive player of the year. Like, do that and help this team win some damn football games. And who cares what he says on the rush? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, Murph. And you know what? Like I said, and I'm with you on Kenny Stabler and that era. You know, Phil Villapiano's book just out, right? I can only imagine. I can't wait to read that. That era of the Raiders, of course, it is legendary, and I love it too. I love the rough, the tumble, the guys that were breaking the rules and having girls at training camp. All that stuff is awesome. But at the same time, the one thing that I've told you, being an outsider coming in when I started the show 9 years ago, and not being a Raider fan, right, was that the thing I learned so quickly about Raider Nation, and that I grew to love about Raider Nation, was the fact that everybody wants you to be yourself. They accept everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a pipe fitter or you're a millionaire. If you are part of Raider Nation and you are a Raiders fan, all comers, right? Everybody come. It's a big tent. I've heard you say that on your show many times. Big tent. So Fernando Mendoza, he's being who he is. Don't you want him to be authentic? Right? Same with Max Crosby. Don't you want Max to be Max? Yes. So I don't understand where people get hung up on those things. To your point about, hey, let's win football games. Be a great quarterback. If you want to be aw shucks and you want to read Bible verses over on the Hollow app, good for you, man. You're welcome in Raider Nation. And if you're a biker and you like to wear leather and you go out and you drink whiskey all the time, great too. It doesn't matter. I think that's the great thing about Raider Nation. Everybody's welcome.
That's a great point, man. Yeah, absolutely. All you got to do is go to a Raider tailgate, and it's a cross section of humanity, man. Like that's one of the things that's so beautiful about our fan base, and I think that it's unique to itself, and it was like that way before any other fan base. I don't want to say it tried to emulate it, but maybe grew into that or whatever else. But the Raiders were that a long, long time ago. You had Hell's Angels sitting next to Black Panthers at the Oakland Coliseum. You know what I mean? Like that's what it was all about. Okay, so let's go back to the actual football part of it for a second, and let's jump over to the other side of the ball. So we talked a little bit about Max, but not just about the defense, Scott, but again, another guy that's catching a lot of flack here, and I think unnecessarily, is Rob Leonard for the defense that came out there. Now, granted, the defense did not look great. Our secondary got absolutely carved up when Gardner Minshew is 15 of 16 for crying out loud or whatever it was. when he had, what, he had 13 straight completions or whatever. Like, that's not a good day. Granted, Gardner Minshew is a fringe starter in the NFL, and he's going against the twos. So, I mean, he should excel in that, but it just didn't look good. The optics weren't there. And so what's your general takeaway? I mean, whether specifically with players or otherwise, but what's your feeling defensively coming out of this game, and especially looking at the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the first appearance of this defense under Rob Leonard. Not only that, but you didn't get a lot of starters, right? You had a lot of guys out there, second, third teamers. You had Jermod McCoy. Also, everybody was excited about Jermod McCoy, and they should be, because I think that at the end of the day, he will be known as the steal of the draft. Maybe Mike Washington Jr. is in that conversation as well. But I will tell you this: he hadn't played football in 20 months. I mean, what do you expect from the guy? And I think that's the hardest thing for those of us who have never played football at that level past high school, let's say. And I only played 2 years in high school because I was awful when I was small. But I will tell you this: you have to give them some time. And so I'm not worried about it. I don't think you should be. Yeah, it wasn't fun to watch, right? You finally get some football and you see this defense go out there and get torched. At the same time, it's just the first game. They will get better. There was not N'Kobe Dean. There was not Quay Walker in that first unit out there very long. And so remember, those guys up front, having there, and then having Kwity Paye on the other side, if he's healthy, with Max Crosby, it's going to take a lot of pressure off that back end. There was not much pass rush in that second, third, and early in that fourth quarter. They started to get some towards the end of the game. But I think you got to take that into consideration. And remember, it takes these guys a little bit to get used to it and to get out there. So, yeah, if this continues into 2 more preseason games and we don't see much improvement, then I'd be a little more worried. But right now, I'm not. I think that they're going to take what they learned. They're going to go down and play Houston, which is a very, very good AFC team. And I think an AFC team that's going to really shock a lot of people and be up there in the conversation with the Bills, Patriots, and others. And so that will get a better test on. But yeah, I think there's, like most cases now with social media and everything, people immediately go from they're going to win the Super Bowl to, oh my gosh, this is terrible, fire Rob Leonard, throw him out of the building. No, let them cook a little bit. Let them get these guys some more practices and some more live action, and then let's start to figure out how worried we should be.
All right, so Scott, do you think that the Raiders finally have it figured out? We were talking a little bit ago about how the direction of the organization has really set up amazingly this offseason, from the way that from starting at the top, from John Spytek getting the gig as the quote director of football operations, to the hiring of the head coach, and the subsequent coaching staff that got hired, the draft that unfolded, secured a first overall quarterback that's going to hopefully franchise this football team for the next 15 years. Like, everything is setting up really, really well for this football team. But we also thought that last year with the quote adults in the room, right? And we were all guilty of that, and so we've been guilty of kind of, I'm going to say falling for it, but you as an objective observer of this football team, as opposed to somebody like me with just silver and black goggles on all the time, where I'm just looking for, I'm looking for anything to be positive about, you know what I mean? Like, please give me something to root for, as like everybody else in our chat and everybody else watching this. Like, but do you, from looking at it, Scott, you finally feel like this, like at a minimum, this is going to be this way for a minute, right? Mark Davis and Tom Brady are going to own this football team. Clint Kubiak's going to coach it. John Spytek's going to manage it. And Fernando Mendoza is going to be your quarterback for, I don't see that ending anytime soon. So maybe is it just that alone that now we have a consistency and a plan going forward, that it's like, okay, well, this is going to be like this for a while now, so we might as well, get behind it.
Listen, I said it a few weeks ago, Murf, and that was, yes, I was just as guilty as all of you last year. Adults in the room, Pete Carroll, Super Bowl winning coach, the whole thing, and then it completely fell apart. But I think if you look deep down, I've been telling people this year, read between the lines on a lot of things. And I was guilty of not doing that last year, because John Spytek brought in a young GM. Yes, good friends with Tom Brady, all of that. But clearly, Pete Carroll was sort of running the show. So I think that John Spytek was not really fully in charge. Mark Davis, to his credit, learned, I think, from that last year, didn't work. And so finally, remember, he came out strong. He said, look, when it comes to football, it's John Spytek and Tom Brady's there to advise him. That's who's in charge. I'm stepping away from that. These guys have it, right? And so that's what they said. And of course, we all looked at it and said, okay, let's see if this happens again. Who do they hire as a coach? They hire Kubiak, they go out. But I got to tell you, I honestly believe, because I come, like you said, I come from a different place than the fan base. And I really do feel that it's different. I just feel as though each step you've seen has been methodical. Even the national media quite can't understand it. The national media has become conditioned to the dysfunction that has been the Raider organization. That dysfunction, they're so used to it that they've fallen into it and expect it and wonder why they're not doing the same things that got them into the place that they've been the last 25 years. Well, I look at it from an outside perspective and say, you know what? This looks like they're operating like a real NFL franchise. And yeah, that might be shocking at first, but everything they've done leads to that. The money they spent their money wisely in spots they needed to spend it. They made the draft pick. They didn't do something crazy and trade out of that pick and not get Mendoza. They went out and they built, I think, an offense that continues to get better. Yeah, they still need a wide receiver one, but that's okay. That's the last step. They did everything else. They even got a great second running back, I believe, to go behind Ashton Genty. They improved on the offensive line, Tyler Lindemann. Look, they did everything you would want them to do for the most part that they could do in one offseason, that is. So yeah, I think it feels completely different. And I think that finally it seems as though they have a what we call, you remember, Murf, I'm sure in your corporate business meetings too, true north, right? They have a true north. They know where they're going. And instead of saying, oh, we're going to go true north, and then, oh, Antonio Brown, let's go west. No, they decided, no, we are going to have a plan. And guess what? We're going to stick to it. It might be painful at times, but we're not going to deviate from that unless there's some evidence that says we need to adjust. That's always a possibility. But I like what they're doing, and they've delivered every move they've made, Murph. You look at it and you don't say, why did they do that? No, you say, I get it, because I've been saying it. You can't build a house on a foundation of sand. It has to be concrete.
Yeah.
So you start at the base. This year is a foundational building year. You don't expect them to do everything in one offseason, but everything they've done, you're like, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. And so that feels different. And so I think there is, and yes, we got to get through this year and see how it all works out. But I will tell you this, it's the first time in 9 years for me where I feel like, okay, this is all set up to be successful. And it might be a little boring in some ways. But guess what? That's where you win. That's where you build good organizations from the top down and the bottom up.
Yeah, that's thank you for saying that, because what you said there about the foundation, I think that's where my brain was with the, like, who's in place now, like in terms of the people that are calling the shots and their security in that. Like, Clint Kubiak ain't going anywhere aside from a locker room revolt or something like that. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, and neither are the rest of these guys. And so with that foundation and with those building blocks in place, Scott, I know it hasn't translated to wins yet. I know that it's not, the Raiders aren't, marching into the playoffs every year and contending for Super Bowls and all that. So Raider Nation, don't hear what I'm not saying. But is it time for us to give Mark some damn credit on this one? Because, I mean, he's heard the jokes. There's the Tommy boys. There's all the things that he's been dealing with, what he drives and where he eats and who he dates and all that stuff. He's caught a lot of shit over the years. And now all of a sudden we look up and we've got this incredibly well-structured franchise. Now, granted, he hasn't always hit home runs in that. And I think that he would tell you that like, there's been some choices and some hirings that, he probably would have wanted back. That said, where they're at now from an organizational standpoint, and oh yeah, by the way, look at the value and all that. And I know you don't win, football games by the value of your franchise, but the Raiders were in such dire straits before, and to where they're at now, I'm just saying, is it time to give Mark some flowers on this thing and be like, all right, man, even if they don't have the ultimate of success in the near future, at least he kind of made all the, like, responsible, educated choices at this point. Do you feel that way, or am I just
No, I think the first point of credit, I think some of it's still, for me, the jury's out. But I will say this, I give him credit because the one thing, and you guys had talked a lot about it on your show, and we did on ours too, which was he needed to get out of the football piece of things. We called and you called for, hey, get a president of football operations. Just stay out of the football stuff, Mark. Yeah, you're going to have a say in the coach. Yeah, you're going to have a say in all that stuff. But just get out of the way, because one of the things in life, right, when you get gray hair like we have, and you get older and you realize you raise kids, you do all that stuff, is you realize that when you don't know something, it's okay not to know it.
Yeah.
Get people around you that do, and empower them to carry out their jobs. And I think Mark Davis right now deserves all the credit in the world, a gold trophy, whatever you want to give him, free, yeah, gold booth at PF Chang's, whatever it is. You give him that credit, because so far that's what he's done from last season and the disaster that was Pete Carroll.
Oh.
And then before that Pierce, and before that McDonough. You get that credit because he did. He said, okay, guess what? I don't think anybody disbelieves Mark Davis when he says he just wants to win.
Yeah.
He wants to do his father's legacy justice by making sure the Raiders, and by the way, he wants to make sure Raider Nation has something to root for. So he stepped out of the way. If he stays out of the way and continues to do that, then yes, he deserves all the credit because he makes the decisions. He is the controlling owner of the team. And by the way, the Tom Brady thing too, I think it gets underplayed and overplayed at times. But I've had a lot of folks argue with me, he doesn't have anything to do with it. When's the last time he was in the building? Doesn't matter if he's in the building. John Spytek told you in the summertime or spring that he talks to him at least once a day, multiple times a day, usually. Those guys are joined at the hip. So Tom Brady, now he deserves some of the fault last year, right, with Pete Carroll and all the things that happened, Geno Smith, all that stuff. So he deserves some of the blame there as well. But I do think that's what you got. Whether you love or hate Tom Brady, doesn't matter. Tom Brady, John Spytek are empowered by Mark Davis now to do that. And so, yeah, he deserves credit. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I don't live near my boss either, but we have this crazy little device right here that magically I can push a couple buttons and I can talk to him. It's right. Like, you know what I mean? And magically he can make decisions and execute said decisions through this crafty little thing we have called the internet. Like, it's like, the people that make this into like a big deal, like, oh, he's not around. Listen, man, he's around when he can be. And all that said, do you really want him crawling around the facility all the time? He's a minority owner, right? Like, do you really want him with like Carly Ursay and standing there with a clipboard on game day, like, taking notes? Like, is that what you want? Like, no, like, let him be Tom. Just be Tom. Like, and we're good. And be an advisor to Spytek. I'm with you on that. And when it comes to Mark, like, too, something else that you said there that resonated was about how no one wants the team to win more than Mark. And I think that a lot of times we as fans, again, I'm not trying to be a Mark apologist here by any means, but like, we got to understand, we've got, whether you love him or don't love him, the reality of it is that no one in the world that wants that team to win more than Mark Davis. No one in the world is a bigger fan of that football team than Mark Davis. Bigger than me, bigger than anybody else on this stream or otherwise. No one wants success for this team and a fan base to be able to enjoy said success more than that guy. So now that we're finally in a position where the team might do that, I guess I'm just feeling a little bit like, hey, all right, let's take it easy on Mark. Although I really haven't heard a lot of criticism though there. So maybe that's this fan base's version of giving him, quote, flowers until we do see the successes, just by kind of leaving him out of the conversation and not being critical of the guy,
Well, and as much as I think of, and this is not an indictment on some of the very talented players in the league, but as much of a joke as I think the WNBA is, because it is, as they've proven over the last several weeks, Mark Davis, look at what he did with the Aces. What is Mark Davis? He doesn't know anything other than he likes to watch women's basketball. He doesn't know anything. So what has he done there? He stayed out of the way, and what have the Aces done? So again, I know that's a little bit of apples and oranges, but it goes to show you that, hey, Mark Davis let the basketball people do their stuff in the WNBA, and they've had a very successful organization. So to me, he's now hopefully learned from that as well. Because look, Mark Davis at his age, we all have ego, Murf. He's worried about his own legacy. What did I take my dad's legacy and just flush it down the toilet? No, he doesn't want to be known for that. He wants to be known for making sure that this franchise gets back to where it should be, which is tops of the NFL competing for championships. So yeah, I think that that is a key in this whole dilemma here of what they were facing and where they're at now. And if he continues, you're right. The jury's out. You got to see what the result is. But clearly, this first step that he's taken has been a significant one.
Absolutely. All right. So let's wrap it up with a little bit of just kind of a 101 on the season here. And thank you for your time, Scott. Appreciate it, brother. And appreciate you jumping in with the power out and everything. So when it comes to this Raiders season, and again, you're an objective observer, and this is one of the reasons that people like to listen to you, because we're not a maniac fan like people like screaming about this football team in their basement, for crying out loud. But you so my stance kind of on this season is, all right, if the Raiders look good, if the optics are good, if there's not a lot of, there's no sloppy play, there's no dead ball penalties, the playmakers are getting targets, somebody actually attempts to throw a football to Brock Bowers in the red zone, for crying out loud. Like, as long as those things happen and we are competitive in football games, I'm not sweating the win-loss total. Where are you at on kind of expectations of what would constitute a successful season? Because I understand that you never lower the standard for that shield, and that because the expectation is greatness. That said, you got to build to that. And I liken this team to the Raiders of 2014 when we got our quarterback. Right, we secured offensive line. We built in free agency through 2014, through then 2015, and then boom, 2016 happens. And if it weren't for a freak injury, that team is taken off and doing some pretty special things. This feels similar to me in that. So where my expectation is still not changed, I also understand that it may not look like 10 wins this year. It might look like 6, but I'm not okay with losing, but I also understand that if the team looks good, as a general term, looks good, then I think I'm okay as a fan. I think we're square. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you talked about it earlier with Cousin Sonny about the fact that the schedule gets brutal at different parts, the beginning of the schedule, middle. I mean, there's all kinds of traps there, right? But I'm with you 100%, and that is a couple things I'm going to be looking at. Number one is, are they in games that they maybe shouldn't be? Like, so yeah, you're going to play the Bills. You're going to play some of these teams that are playoff teams that are expected to win their division or even compete for a conference championship or Super Bowl berth, whatever it is. Are they in those games? Are they not being blown out, right? And number two, are they winning games they should win? Are they not losing games where they have no business losing games? Meaning, things like the Dolphins week 1, like who knows if they win? I think they do, but nonetheless, are they in the games they should be in? Are they executing well? Are they not self-destructing, right? That goes back to coaching, talent, everything else, preparation, meaning that are they not getting the type of penalties we saw the other night, right? Which is crazy to have 7 penalties in the first half and be like, wow, what's going on here? So I think those are the kind of tells, right? The tells are they executing? Yeah, they'll lose some games that you don't want them to lose for sure. But at the same time, are they competing? Are they executing to the best of their ability? Where they still have some talent gaps? Are they still doing well? We saw it, some of the criticisms of the defensive backs the other night was, hey, you know what? The coverage was actually good. They just weren't finishing plays. Some of that is preparation and getting ready, and they're just not there yet. The other half of that is some talent. Are they a little deficient in certain areas? And you can see it, but yet they're right there. And I think if you see that this year, you're right. It's not so much about the wins. I said a ceiling would be 7 wins. On a really good year, it might be 8. Who knows? But then again, I could see them going 3-3 over the first 6, and that would be pretty dang good to be 500 on a rebuilding team when you only won 3 games last year. So yeah, I think there's so many things that you can look for this year and find hope and build upon, back to the foundational discussion we had a little earlier. So to me, that's what you got to look for. Are they going in that right direction? They don't walk into a game where they should be either competing to win or should win and get blown out by 15, 20 points.
Right.
That's what you don't want to see. That's what we saw last year. That's what we saw the previous few years. And so if you don't see that and you see this team right there, scrappy, and that's really what I want to see. And I expect under Clint Kubiak is them to be scrappy, and even games where they're struggling, in the fourth quarter and it looks like, hey, you got 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you're down by 14 points, they're still trying to score. They're still playing tough defense. To me, those are all the telltale signs that everything is focused in the right direction.
Barring injury, you think Cousins starts all year?
No, I really do believe that it depends on where they're at, right? So Cousins is slow. He's not mobile. And so if they get to a point in the season where they're either, quote, out of it, or they're competing really well and doing better than people thought, but they're not progressing or they're not winning games they should win because of quarterback play, meaning they're not able to be as dynamic, not able to call the offense the way that Kubiak wants to call the offense. And they believe Mendoza's ready because by all accounts, based on the other night, people now believe it's the prevailing thought. I'm not sure if it's true, but prevailing thought is Mendoza's ahead of schedule. So if he's ahead of schedule now, by week 6, by week 8, by week 13, if he is, why wouldn't you put him in there? That's not against Kirk Cousins. I'm not saying that, but also Kirk Cousins at his age with injury history, there's also that possibility. So I just see Mendoza having opportunities later on in the year outside of mop-up duty. And if the Raiders are at that right juncture, that's going to be a call by the organization. But I think they do make it because they got to see what the kid can do in a starting role when you got a game on the line.
Yeah, man, I'm thinking like if this is going to be the kind of season that we're expecting it going to be, hey, if you're not going to be in the midst of a division hunt or, you know what I mean, or a playoff spot or otherwise, well, then you might as well play the young guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, might as well get it as long as they can protect him. Obviously, no one wants to see him get lit up back there and destroy his confidence and all that. But but if the protections look decent and all that, so no, I'm with you, Scott. So real quick before we go, you want to play a little game? You want to play a little quick game? Okay, let's do it. All right, it's either. Okay, so you have to pick one. There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer, but you just have to pick one. All right, you ready?
All right.
Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix?
I'm going to take Jimmy Page.
All right. Eddie Van Halen or Angus Young?
Oh, that hurts.
I know.
That hurts. I'm going to take Eddie.
Eddie. Jimmy Page or Eddie Van Halen?
Eddie Van Halen.
The greatest guitar player.
I'm biased.
Give it up for Scott.
I'm sitting on an EVH guitar stool right now, so that'll tell you where I am. Like you guys are all biased with Raiders, being Raiders fans. Just that's how I am with Van Halen.
Absolutely. Well, we had to talk a little bit of guitar players, man. I know you're such a an avid rock fan, and we share a lot of the same favorite bands and players and all that. And so I had to definitely hit you up at least a little bit about some music. All right. So what was the last concert you went to? When was that?
Last concert I went to would have been Mammoth, which is Eddie Van Halen's son.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Wolfgang.
Wolfgang, absolutely. All right, good deal. All right, well, hey, Scott, thank you for jumping on with us, brother, despite the power outage. Appreciate you jumping on with us here for an RFR conversation. Appreciate everybody that's in the chat room tonight. I appreciate you also very, very much. And, Scott, let's do it again soon, brother.
Oh, yeah, man. We'll have you on our show, too, doing some post-game stuff like we do. Have a lot of people asking about that. Is Murf coming on? I said, yeah, we'll do it. We'll get it in there. Don't worry about it. So, yeah, no, it's always great. You have such an amazing audience. I love you guys all out there. Thanks for the support on our end, too. And, of course, Murf, also say hi to the rest of the crew for me, too, but it's also good. Yeah, no, check out Silver and Black today. We're now part of the same network. We're on the same network.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On the Believe Network. So, we're all doing there as well, so we're having fun. We'll be back on the radio starting the first week of the season on Saturday nights at 5 p.m. on 101.5 KDON. So if you're in Vegas for the game or you live there, you can check out a show. And that's a different show than the stuff we do during the week, so make sure you listen in.
Absolutely. Check him out online. Check him out on the YouTube. Check him out on Twitter. He's at LV Gully. And thank you, Scott. We appreciate you, brother. Raider Nation, give it up for Scott Gulbransen.
Thank you, guys.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. See you, Scott.